Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News.
Despite the major advancements women have made in becoming a significant part of the workforce, they're still facing important career development issues. Although many women achieve lower and middle management positions, they seem to hit the glass ceiling in many organizations and are denied the most senior levels of upper management. Joining us now to discuss how to bridge the gap is Amina Oyagbola, the founder of Women in Successful Careers, WISCAR, a non-profit organization focused on empowering and developing professional women to contribute to development and growth in Nigeria. Amina, good to see you.
Good morning.
After such a long time.
Yes, a
Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Yes,
thank you for inviting
us.
Yeah, you have WISCAR, right?
Yes,
You're saying there's still a glass ceiling.
Absolutely.
In Nigeria,
yes,
or universally. But I see that a lot of women, powerful women, top girls, as the phrase goes, there's even a club in that direction, are all over corporate Nigeria. There's even a book, by, a European scholar, saying that Nigerian women dominate the workspace, particularly at the lower levels, in Yoruba, in Yoruba communities and elsewhere in Nigeria. And yet you are saying there is a glass ceiling in Nigeria. Can you define that glass ceiling? Because you were a top girl, if I may use that common phrase,
yes.
in corporate Nigeria. No, it's called top girls.
She's the top woman.
Yes, okay.
Thank you very much for
Google
that.
Google it. There is a club like that. Yeah, it's a technical phrase.
Okay.
Yeah. So, where is this glass ceiling still coming from in Nigeria?
The point is nobody wants to be at the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah.
So the truth is that, yes, indeed, there's so many women involved. As a matter of fact, women are holding up this economy, in my opinion, because the women are the ones feeding us. They're the ones in the farms. They're the ones in the rural communities. They're the ones really working hard, in all facets of life, in all our industries. But the question is, how many women are really at the top? That's what WISCAR is all about. So, and the reason why it's important is that those at the bottom of the food chain don't have influence, don't have the power. They don't have the influence to make change happen and to transform. Because all the change initiatives that you can think of in the world, all the global change initiatives and the huge transformations that have happened have been led by leaders. People who lead are on top. The people who lead are in front. And the people who can influence and change policy, change regulation, change laws that affect, an interest group, not just women, any interest group, because we're about diversity and inclusiveness. But I'm focused on women because I'm a woman. It's an issue that I understand. So I believe that when you want to pursue something that you can speak to authentically and with some credibility. I understand the pain and what women go through in corporate Nigeria. I've been in corporate Nigeria, all my working life, and I've had the privilege and the opportunity to be a corporate executive. So the issues that we're talking about are real. A lot of the time through the course of my over 30-year career, I'd be the only single woman in the room, standing alone or sitting there. And the question is, so what is the strength of my voice? No matter how strong a character I may be, no matter how intellectually capable I am, no matter the level of competency that I have, and no matter the performance track record that I may have demonstrated over time. If you're sitting in a room with 12 people or 15 people and they have a particular perspective and they want to go down a particular path, and you express your voice, the majority takes the day, and so it should. So I think it's important that it's actually critical that we have more women included, more women participation, ensuring that there's more parity and a richer perspective so that the quality of decisions that we make, as a people in those corporate institutions and in Nigeria generally are improved. And that's why WISCAR is focused on what it's doing. Our focus is on capacity building. It's on leadership and capacity building through mentorship. That's what we focus on, because we want to bridge that gap. I've observed with the rest of members of the WISCAR Advisory Board, who are just wonderful people, and also the WISCAR mentors, that, there's certain particular issues that we as women, and it's of course a generalization, women have. So issue of self-esteem, and these are all social cultural, how we've been brought up. all the socialization over time. You're made to feel that, you should be a helper and a supporter in the home, and therefore, and a supporter and a helper to your husband. You should not be an initiator. You should be a follower. You should not be a leader. You should follow. You should not speak up. As a matter of fact, you should not look people, shouldn't eyeball people. You should keep your gaze down to show humility and to show the fact that, you can be a subservient woman. If you speak up too often, they say, they tag her as aggressive, not assertive.
Yes.
If you are out there too much, they'll say, she's ambitious, too ambitious. What is she looking for? But the important thing to remember is that a woman, just like a man, what's the difference? It's a physiological, biological difference. The brain is exactly the same. If you remove the facade, of my face and actually go into the brain of a man and a woman, it is exactly the same.
These days we hear that our daughters do better than the boys in schools.
Yes, they do, and that is the other narrative, you see. So we outperform the boys in schools. We also outperform them coming out of university. At recruitment, because I'm a HR expert, at recruitment, a lot of the interviews, the women outperform the men and they enter the workforce. So you have, at the entry point, more women, in fact, than men. And then let us assume there's a woman and there's a man, and they go in on the same day. Unmarried, the woman is unmarried, she's single, the man too is unmarried, he's single, and they start their career. The man is immediately mentored by the men in the organization because there are very few senior women. The poor woman is trying to balance.
But I say WISCAR, different from WIMBIS. You were a member of WIMBIS, one of the very prominent members of WIMBIS.
Yes.
And then WISCAR is doing more or less, as you defined it, what WIMBIS is also doing. So why WISCAR when you could help to strengthen WIMBIS?
You see, the issues concerning women are multifaceted and they're numerous, and there's so much scope for more women organizations to be doing several things. All the women in WIMBIS, I respect what WIMBIS does. I'm still a supporter of WIMBIS. I'm a member of WIMBIS, and I will always support them. They have their own areas of focus. We are focusing on a niche area, which is mentorship and leadership. And leadership.
This morning I watched Amanpour, and Obiezekwe was being interviewed by Christiane.
Yes.
And one thing I took away from what she said was that leadership should be gender neutral, or leadership is gender neutral.
Yes.
And I think that's what you guys are doing right now, to try to have that synergy with women, to let them know that you can be a leader as a woman. And the point now is that there's very few women leaders in politics. Do you guys have anything, or do you guys build the capacity of women to go into politics? Because those are that's the area that would affect more women in Nigeria, because obviously people listen to leaders, and to be a leader, it's important to have more women in politics.
Absolutely. So we don't focus. We don't have a career program or a curriculum that focuses on building capacity of women to go into politics. There are a few organizations that actually focus on that, but we provide a platform. We provide a platform and a network, and a supportive network for any woman who, depending on her aspiration. That's what WISCAR does. So depending on your aspiration, we can identify for you in the matching process somebody who is already in that line of work, who has trodden the path that you aspire to tread. And that person can then take you as a mentee under your wing and mentor you along that path and that journey. Part of that mentorship that the mentor will do is to identify for you women's organizations that perhaps also focus on capacity building for people with political aspirations. Obiezekwe that you mentioned just now, we identified her several years ago as somebody who should be a beneficiary of the Distinguished WISCAR Award because of her contribution in various facets of life. And that's what we do. We want to bring out the heroes that we have. We want to showcase successful women who, in spite of all the odds, have achieved. And that's the reason why we're having this annual conference this year. So bringing in, ex-President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf into Nigeria She has an amazing story to tell. It's about role modeling. It's about leadership. It's about mentorship, even the mentorship that she has provided to young children and to the women folk in Liberia.
We'll talk more about the program which you're having this weekend, but let me take you back to something you said. I mean, you've highlighted some of the challenges women face. It's the society, how they're brought up on a very narrow path of you're a domestic animal. You're a wife, you're a mother, you can't do more than that.
Stay in the kitchen.
Exactly. But you've also said that, you know, at the entry level, you have a lot of women. However, they don't get to the top. So what exactly is the problem here? Is it a function of society? Is it a function of the women themselves? Why don't we have enough women at the top?
It's a combination. So there are the social cultural limitations and barriers, some of which we've touched on already. There are the internal processes and policies inside the organization, which historically have been designed around men. Now, I will give you an example of when I was working in an oil company many years ago, and I went for a business planning meeting in another location. I couldn't find even a toilet to use. The toilet for the women was like 600 miles away. The convenience for the men was right outside the hall. So we were an afterthought. It was many, many years later when women started coming into that organization that they now thought, oh, we need to have a convenience for the woman. You know, the medical policies inside the organization, have they taken the issues that are unique to women into consideration, like gynae and so on? You will see prostrate there. You will see all the things that concern men there, but you will not see, but you know, I can't even blame the men for that. The fact was that you didn't have any senior female leaders, so you didn't get the perspective of women in the room, so that those changes, and it was only until people like myself and other people in organizations got there to say, and then we started speaking up and making sure that these changes took place. There's also the issue of attitude, you know, the mindset, you know, of men inside the organizations, and the CEOs of organizations, the majority of whom are male, not making gender diversity a priority. See, anything that the CEO inside a company makes a priority and is on the CEO agenda, everybody in the organization will automatically fall in line. Yes. So if it's not a priority, and he also has a mindset of, oh, well, these women issues are just, you know, whatever. Okay, allow them to have some networking things occasionally, and it's very patronizing. Nobody's going to take it seriously. Even the whole issue of sexual harassment, which sometimes is also a barrier. Many women have left organizations just on that singular reason alone. And they were on a very, very strong, you know, career trajectory because of discrimination, sex, and harassment. So, you know, there are several issues. There's also the issue of mobility. So one of the fastest ways to progress inside a corporate institution, especially if it's a multinational, is if you are mobile and flexible enough to be able to take on international assignments. So when the young woman is having her children, it doesn't necessarily mean that she's not flexible. But a lot of the time, what happens is that the men at the top in a room where there's no female presence, take those decisions on your behalf. So, and they think they're helping you. I mean, it's happened to me. They'll say, oh, well, you know, Amina had a baby just about 9 months ago. Let's not disturb her. You know, I don't think she can go to XYZ location, you know, for that reason. Consult her. If it was the male counterpart, that would not happen. They will engage that individual to say, oh, there's this opportunity, are you available to go? And the guy may have other issues that may not even permit him to go. He may have a sick and ailing mother that he cannot leave at that time, or he may have a problem with his wife that will not allow him to go. But these decisions are taken for women due to the social-cultural orientation that we've had over time. So there's that issue. And then on top of that, mobility. What structures and systems have we put in place inside our organizations to enable women to be more mobile?
Well, let me bring up two issues. One, the framework for what you are doing is mentoring, right? I was involved in C4C, a Coalition for Change, okay, which was sponsored by DFID, the United Kingdom government. We were also doing mentoring. We even ended up with a book on the matter, but that was not gender differentiated. It was both men and women and all of that. But the challenge in some of these ideas or projects is sustainability. what do you have in place to ensure sustainability? That is one. Two, why women? Because if we talk about mentoring, there are also a lot of young men out there who need mentoring.
Absolutely.
And when you use the framework of mentoring, is it not better to make it more gender inclusive rather than to say it's women who need mentoring rather than men?
Women have been left behind for so many years, and we need to play catch up. So we're focusing on the women first. I think there's been enough attention paid to men over the years. I have a son as well, so I care about the men too. And I do believe that if we're able to mentor the women and get them into leadership, it's going to benefit both men and women. I mean, there's statistics to show. The McKinsey Global Institute report has made very, very clear that if you ensure equality of women and female participation, we can add up to $28 trillion to the global economy. So the economics even make sense. So let's focus on ensuring that we're not flying on one engine, on the aircraft. Let's ensure that this huge population of women that we have in Nigeria, the collective brain power and brain thrust of the nation is put to work to develop our nation. So I think women now, the statistics from the Bureau of Statistics last time was at the last count, over 50% of our 198 million Nigerian population consists of women. So let's put them fully to work. Let's open up, board appointments and executive positions for women. I mean, that myth around, we don't have enough competent women available to occupy that, it is not true. It is not true. At the top, just like in most other corporate institutions, what happens is that the final decision about who is going to get a board appointment, who is going to get an executive, is no longer about competence. It's about politics. It's about who the people in the room feel most comfortable with, who will not threaten them, what their values are. Do the values that they have align with the values of those in the room? If that person comes in, will they be disruptive, or will they play ball in line with what was going on before? And that is why you find that they've kept them out. But I think forward-looking institutions are beginning to realize the benefits of diversity and inclusion, and the benefits of ensuring that you have that rich perspective in the room, and that voice in the room, that alternative voice in the room, which will impact positively on the bottom line and the progress and performance of your organization.
So you have a
sustainability. Have you addressed
Yes,
that?
okay, sustainability. That's really important, and thank you for that question. Yes. We have struggled for 10 years. WISCAR has been in existence for over 10 years, and we thank God for being able to sustain us. Our sustainability, we're looking more seriously now at the sustainability model. We have a subcommittee, which we call the Funding and Sustainability Committee on our board. And as a matter of fact, we will be having a strategy session after, our big event on Saturday. Part of that sustainability model is to try and ensure that we attract donor funds. We've had one donor organization, the African Women's Development Fund, give us donor funds on one occasion. But, that's all we've ever gotten. But we didn't have time because we're starting small. We didn't have the resources and the means. That's the problems with NGOs, to focus on developing those grant proposals. That is a science all by itself. We were focusing more on ensuring that we deploy the curriculum that we have, and ensuring that we graduate mentees every year. So we're shifting our focus, going into 2019 to really focus on, approaching, donor agencies locally and abroad to ensure that we can sustain our operations. And we're getting a lot of support, frankly, from a lot of corporate institutions, trying to ensure that we have, dedicated corporate sponsors on board so that we don't have to every year, be like on the treadmill chasing after donor funds to just sustain and pay the operations, because it's very expensive. And what people don't realize about WISCAR is that our programs are actually free for the mentees, and we did that deliberately when we started, because we really wanted to target the people who needed, the strategic advice and support, and the technical skills that we wanted to build. Technical skills including, ensuring that we make the women more self-aware, build up their confidence, political savviness, and then, certain core programs around that will build their personal effectiveness, build their interpersonal effectiveness, and build their organizational effectiveness.
Talking about your programs, I'm particularly interested in the HBC Career Series. which has 9 modules, but 2 caught my attention. It is getting ahead in a man's world and work-life balance.
Absolutely.
You can't excuse the society we are, the African society, which puts so much prime on the male child. So when you run such programs, I want to know, are you pushing for gender parity, or do people see you as pushing for the emasculation of the man?
Not at all. It's not about the emasculation of the man. We're pushing for gender parity. And as a matter of fact, for that reason, the HBC series is our open program, and it actually forms part of our sustainability model. We have the core program, which is completely free, but the HBC series, which is run in partnership with our partner, Habiba Balogun Consulting, is an open program. And that open program is open to anybody, male and female. And as a matter of fact, many men actually attend those programs. Those programs are fantastic. You know, we teach you about business writing, we teach you about public speaking, how to make an effective presentation, how to succeed in a man's world, all sorts of things in the program, as you rightly outlined. And it's open, but it's also subsidized. So you are coming to attend a fantastic program facilitated by top facilitators, and you're paying almost nothing, really, because I'm even shy to say how much it is. I think it's about, if I'm not wrong, I don't want to give the wrong figure, I think it's 25,000 naira, something really, really small. It's subsidized. Whereas if you were to go for those programs, I think
small.
It is.
Nigerian governors are saying they can't even afford to pay that as new national minimum wage because it's a lot of money. Anyway, let me ask you another question.
Issue.
Let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
The theme for this year's conference is enriching our lives by telling our stories.
By telling our own stories.
So what strategies do you have in place to encourage women to tell their own stories? And why the choice of President Eli Salif Johnson?
We have always deployed strategies to encourage people to tell their own stories. Part of the design of the Win with WISCAR program, a core element of our design, beyond the capacity building, beyond trying to encourage women to read and expand their knowledge and continuously sharpen the saw and focus on improvement, is the role modeling element. So part of our calendar every year, we have a program which we call the Meet a WISCAR series, and we essentially invite successful women like yourselves to the program one-on-one, and we invite you as a participant, but not in the hot seats. So we invite them, and essentially they're sharing their stories, and they come from different walks of life. So we've invited, we had a Meet a WISCAR series where we invited women in politics to come and discuss and tell us what they've gone through, the challenges they're going through, how they have succeeded, those that have succeeded, and so on. So this year, and then at the end of the year, we have the high point of our calendar is our annual conference. And it's a high point on 2 fronts. One, we want to graduate the mentees on the program who've been there for 12 months. And 2, we want to showcase, we always want to identify a powerful keynote speaker. A keynote speaker of note who will come and inspire, who will be an exemplar, who will be a role model, who really has a story to tell. This year, interestingly, we decided, okay, let us bring, and we have an election coming around the corner, let us bring somebody who has done it before. The first female democratically elected president in Africa, and indeed in Liberia, in the person of President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And we're delighted and honored when she accepted our invitation. She has an amazing story to tell. I don't know if you've read her book. Her book, This Child Will Be Great. I've just finished reading it. It is just an amazing story. So I don't want to give you snippets of that story. I want to whet your appetite. You must come to the conference on Saturday, the 24th of November at the Muson Center, and come and hear her tell it and tell us her story herself. So there's the power of role modeling. Why is role modeling so important? Why is it important for women to tell their own stories? Over the years, men have been telling the story. And they tell it from their own understanding and their own perspective. And they drive a particular narrative. It's only if you tell your story that we can begin to change the narrative about how women are perceived and position
women. Changing the narrative is important. But see, we have many of these conferences on many issues in Nigeria. What's your strategy from moving from the ideas, the communique, to real action on some of the issues? I don't think gender pay disparity is a major issue in Nigeria, but you are in a position to tell me if it is. But sexual harassment, which you referred to earlier, is definitely a problem. Now, what is in place to move some of the ideas that come out of your activities to the policy arena and ensure influence and implementation?
Thank you very much for that question. One of the things, if you look at our vision and our mission statement, one of our missions beyond capacity building and so on is to ensure that we influence, is advocacy. We ensure that we influence gender-friendly policies, not just in organizations, but in the country. So that's very important to us. We don't believe in a talk shop, because that's a waste of everybody's time. So come and have a nice time, some glitz and glamour, wear some nice things, and have it. That's not what WISCAR is about. We're a very serious organization. We're pursuing a very, very deliberate strategy and a very, very deliberate agenda. Really want to influence change. We want to impact the beneficiaries of our program directly, and I'm proud to say that we have the impact of the program on our beneficiaries has been transformational. And you need to come and hear their testimonies themselves and what they're now doing. I have no doubt that many of the young ladies that have attended the WISCAR program are going places. And
can you just quickly share with us, because we don't have much time, one of your success stories?
Oh, there's so many of them. Even the young lady, Peju Ajayoba, who just got an award.
Who is it, lady?
Peju Ajayoba, who just got an award from His Royal Highness, the Prince Charles, when he came to Nigeria.
Yes, I saw that.
She's a WISCAR mentee. The lady who is in charge of the Nanny Academy, Amara Agbim, she set up, due to WISCAR, she only had a business plan when she started, when she came on the program. But by the time she was finished with her mentor, the business plan was completed, and she has moved into implementation, and she's running a fantastic Nanny Academy now, where she identifies people that you can bring into your home who have been reference checked and who are ripe to support women and provide that back-end support that you need to succeed in life. She's doing really well, and she's moved on now. She's also a beneficiary of one of the government grants, and is moving on to do amazing work. One of our other mentees the other day went into the White House and in the tenure of Obama, President Obama, I forgot her name, because of the project that she was pursuing. Again, that project was helped to be refined in terms of focusing her on the goal. There's so many of them. We have our mentees now. We have over 300 mentees that have actually gone through the structured WISCAR program, and they're sitting in about 15 different organizations. We have a WISCAR mentee in the Office of the Vice President.
Oh, wow.
Our people are all over the place.
Very nice.
And
Well, before we close this conversation, there's a question I would like to ask you on behalf of our Nigerian viewers.
Yes.
But you may choose not to answer
Okay.
because it's not related to why you are here.
Okay.
You are here to talk about WISCAR.
So don't ask it.
No, but there will be many Nigerian viewers out there who will be interested in the question.
Okay.
What exactly happened at MTN and your exit from MTN? Because there are many versions of the story out there. Would you like to talk about it?
Well,
just
yes,
to clarify.
no, that's a very simple question, because it's, my version of the story, or the real truth, not even my version, the truth is that I left MTN after I had helped MTN in the resolution of the fine. There's a time for everything. I was an executive for 12 years. It was a voluntary exit. There is no story. The facts are they didn't.
Was this story about bribe or something?
That
you
is
managing some, financial settlement and all of that?
No, that is totally false. There's no truth to that story whatsoever. It's a very, very mischievous story. And, the truth about things is that, when you're on the upward climb and when you handle high-profile issues, people always want to believe the worst of people. It's very, very sad. It's a very, very sad thing that people want to believe the worst of their fellow human beings. I always say that it's only if you have such negative thoughts yourself, or perhaps if you were in that situation, you believe that this is what you would do, then it's easy for you to believe that. There's something they call PhD, pull them down syndrome. People who know me, and I'm concerned about those who know me, my parents, my close friends and associates, know that I'm a very ethical person, and know that I'm somebody who, my value system is very important to me. I will not engage in certain kinds of activities. I've turned down jobs for ethical reasons. I've walked out of organizations on ethical grounds. So that story, it is completely baseless. You know, I know the and everything that I did for MTN in the course of that activity, there was nothing at all that was done that was not presented formally to the board of that institution and authorized. You see, the story doesn't even make sense. That's why it's not worth, you know, responding to. It doesn't make sense because in an organization like MTN, which is very structured, even to buy your flight ticket on an MTN mission, there's a whole process around, to get 50,000 naira, there's a whole process around it. Talk less of transactions, the kind of transaction that we're talking about here. So that's completely false. I certainly did not give 1 penny, not 1 penny, to anybody, you know, in that whole transaction.
Well, thank you very much,
So
Amina
I hope that helps to clarify.
For coming to the morning show.
Thank you.
And thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would help the understanding of many Nigerians who are fixated on a particular side of the story.
Well, I'm surprised
Thank
to
you.
hear that they're fixated. That means they don't have much work to do.
Yes,
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation, and I hope to see you on Saturday.
Thank
At this
you.
where
I
we're going.
hope you will all come.
Yeah, I'm left out.
Yes.
9 o'clock at the Muson Center. Come and listen to the global icon, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
But maybe I will come. I'm sure you will
should
allow
come.
me.
No, you should come. It's not
for women alone.
It's not for women alone.
Yes.
I mean, she has a story that I think everybody should be interested in hearing, and it's for men and for women. And we cannot succeed without the other. Men cannot succeed without women, and women cannot succeed without men. I am who I am today, courtesy of my parents, my mother and my father, and the great support that I have had from my husband, who's my #1 cheerleader. So we need each other. What we're advocating is to try and improve the awareness and the consciousness to some men who have a traditional mindset that has been ingrained in them over time, to say, look, there's a benefit that will accrue to you if you just open yourself up and allow women to come in.
Very nice.
Thank you very
Congratulations
much.
on everything
Yes,
you've
great.
achieved. It's time now for a short break.